after you got a chance to review last week's game that you didn't have coming right out of the game?
Yeah, I think after you watch it, it's always a consistent thing. It's never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems. So, and that's kind of how it goes for the whole game. I think ultimately we didn't win, so there was just, you look on some of those plays like, man, what could I have done differently to where we could have gotten that first down or gotten in the end zone. So that's what stings the most. And then you look at some of the good plays and you think there's some encouraging stuff just as a whole unit, and you try and replicate that. And but for me, it's, I want to be perfect on every play, and how can I do that and give us the best chance to win. So ultimately we didn't do it, and we kind of keep going.
Kellen was talking the other day about how his philosophy is you have to earn tempo, basically, like and start probably going to get some first downs first and stuff. What are some ways you think you can get yourself going earlier in games, like even when the offense is kind of in a 3-and-out, the run game's not going, since you've obviously had a lot of success when you do get to the pick up the tempo?
Yeah, I think just communicating to the guys continually throughout the whole week. Once we actually get to game day, like, hey, let's have a, let's get our piss out here. Let's get going. We got to get going, and ultimately it comes down to just execution. There's a third down. That's what it comes down to realistically. But I think creating that message, kind of having that juice, we can continue to do that. I think that's, what I'm going to try and instill, and that starts with myself, and that starts with me being dialed. So I think ultimately, like, I agree with Kellen, we have to be able to kind of get rolling to change the tempo and to do certain things. So I think any offense is going to be successful when you do that, and I think it just comes down to the situational football, and especially against the Buccaneers, you don't want to be in third and long.
Obviously, the Tampa game was like your first real exposure in the NFL. Like, how do you feel like you've grown since that point?
Yeah, I feel. Each game, every single week. I've said it before. I feel like I've gotten better and more and more comfortable in being able to see new things, learn from new things, different footworks here. How can I get my eyes in the right place versus coverage, and who am I, what am I doing, and getting a feel for the receivers. I think that's kind of the fun part I like, every single day, is you're kind of learning something new about, what makes them tick, and what route, feel do they have. And so for me, I think it's a continual process. I think the cool part about this division is I think we have some really good teams in this division. It's a challenge every single time. So it'll definitely be good to play them again, and looking forward to it. And we got to be dialed as an offense.
Yeah, 3 of the next 5 games are going to be repeat opponents that you face. Is there an eagerness to kind of get up there again? Does it affect your approach at all in terms of film study that's actually against you and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think you're obviously watching. It's nice when you're playing divisional games, you get to watch your own film again. But at the same time, this is my first time doing it, to where, you're going against a divisional opponent for the second time. You're playing an opponent for the second time. So I'm sure there's going to be wrinkles. There's going to be things that we're going to have to be dialed in on. And likewise for us, we're going to have to manage our game plan. So looking forward to the challenge. And I think, we'll have a good week of prep to go out there down to Tampa.
What did you think of Devaughn Vele in that game in Miami, and how has he kind of helped you get developed and acclimated?
I think, we were talking about in the locker room, like, he's just kind of a safety blanket, knowing he's going to catch anything you throw his way. I think he's kind of proven that, and each day he's, he kind of gains that confidence. He'll have certain days where, we'll look back and like, hey, how can we, get on time with this route, or what are you thinking here? So I think what he's so great about is just communicating wise, super smart, and then obviously you put on tape that anything you kind of put in his direction, body, out of frame, he's going to catch. So really proud of him, and I know, continually we're going to try and keep it capitalizing on that. And then on time, scramble drill, he does a really good job. So we'll keep going.
When you talk about having those conversations with them, is that something you guys have been doing from the get-go, or was there a point when it wasn't happening more quickly right away that you started spending extra time working on that?
He's always been great about showing up. All the receivers do a really good job showing up on on our off days, watching film. We're just being around each other. And I think from the first day he got here, he's been putting in the extra time to just learn the offense. And I think a lot of the early, action that you guys may talk about as far as not getting as much, I think it's just kind of sometimes how the cookie crumbles with certain plays. But he's been such an asset for us in the pass game, run game, asked me and doing different things. So I think, he's kind of shown what he can do, and we can continue to build off that. But he's earned the right to be in the game almost every single snap from what he can do from that standpoint.
Did he ever join in on those Monday sections, or would he have not qualified for being one of the developmental group, I guess?
I can't remember specifically, but I think usually he would be. I mean, some weeks I think he did. I'm trying to think back, but no, I mean, he would usually be getting rehab or something like that, or treatment. But I think a lot of the stuff afterwards, post-practice wise, in the film room, that's kind of what I'm referencing to, is he's just great about communicating with that. So he's showing up to film sessions, all those things. But actual reps, we get quite a few in, post-practice.
Is there anything that you can point to as like a specific example of now that we had worked together that opened this up?
I think it's just continual reps. That's what's been shocking to me, even as a starter, having a different role, but just how limited the actual reps are in practice. From a backup perspective to essentially zero, to even as a starter, you're still not getting an extreme amount, and especially with certain guys, it's only on a few routes. So that just the utmost importance of putting in extra time, and just that's kind of, as the weeks go on, it starts to build up. And that's why you see, I think, over years and years where you see that comfortability kind of grow with certain guys. So I think we'll just kind of continue to do that and see where we can go.
Touchdown throw, obviously he wasn't by himself. So what are you looking for there to decide, hey, I'm going to give the guy a chance versus, maybe pull it down, maybe run? Like, what are you kind of looking for?
There's a trust factor for sure. I think there's a trust, and I have that trust in him and all of our receivers to go up and make that play. And I'm going to do my job to try and put it to where it's either it's us or nobody, especially in that scenario. So he just did a really good job of going up and making the catch. And I think with all those guys, I can continue to trust him more.
I think the catch radius, obviously, that he has, does that make it a little easier just in terms of give more leeway?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that's even on a lot of those scramble drills and really some of those catches, he's making the tough ones for sure. So I think that gives you confidence as a quarterback to go put it out there.
Did you jump off at the last meeting about Todd Bowles' defense that you can maybe take with you?
Just last time we played them, you're saying? Yeah. I think every tape you watch, he does a really good job of mixing things up. They bring pressure quite a bit with all their guys. So we just got to be dialed on our game plan and just be ready for what they're going to bring us. So I think he's, if not the best defensive coordinator in the league, and a lot of respect for what they do. So I think for this week and the second time playing them, just making it about us, I think when we had operational issues and, we had some mistakes there that kind of set us back. And if we can be dialed there, I think we'll have success.
It's identifying pressure on you. Is that on Fortner? I don't know how it works with Eric out now.
It's a whole offensive unit. Yeah, whole offensive unit. There's obviously a role for both of us. The whole offensive line, that's one thing that I think we can continue to build upon, is just having better communication, run game, pass game, myself, all those stuff. So we've gotten some good answers, and we can continue to kind of grow in that area as well. So I think it's part of it, and part of that growth is obviously it's hard when you have some new guys, filling in, coming back, but I think they've done a good job overall.
I have a way out of left field question. Maybe just be something completely irrelevant. I remember when you left Oregon, you had like Michigan and Penn State. You had a whole bunch of schools. Was Ole Miss and Kiffin? Did you ever have any contact with them? And just because he's dominated the headlines here.
No, I don't think so. Remember thinking back wise. I remember back in the day, it was a while ago, I talked to Ed Orgeron for a little bit. That was pretty sweet. But no, I hadn't talked to Kiffin at all. Yeah.
Did you understand it?
It took me a little bit on the phone. It was pretty funny, but at the time I was like, man, that's coming from Arizona. I was like, I've never been out to Louisiana. I was like, sounds like it'd be a great place to play. And obviously being here, I'm kind of wish I went there, but it all worked out though.
What do you make of just as a fellow quarterback, Baker Mayfield, not only his play style but his story as a young quarterback who there's so much in front of you, there could be adversity, it could go ideally it could go best for you in a way. him early in his career, but what do you think about him? How much have you followed him?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I think just his journey it kind of pinpoints to, what I really hung my hat on throughout the whole draft process, as far as just when you face adversity in your college or NFL career. I feel like a lot of time guys come out on the other side in a positive note, and he's kind of seen it all from that standpoint of being a really high draft pick and going to different places and kind of having to bounce back. And I think for who he is as a player and who he is, like his personality, that at least that bleeds through. And I think there's some guys on our training staff, Sean Gibson, and a lot of guys that have been around him, talk about how good of a dude he is. And obviously that's something that I, try and be like every single day, just who I am, personality-wise, having fun. And also I love just watching his play style, how he can extend plays. He's tough, he's gritty. So a lot of respect for him. Obviously, as a Saints player and being on our team, we don't really like him very much, when we're playing him. But I can really respect just his journey and something that I, obviously love to follow.
I know I have a big picture question here, because obviously you all were like officially eliminated from playoff contention, and people like Kellen have talked about looking to the future and things like that. Do you look big picture and say, hey, look, the next 5 games, I need to exclamation point this thing and let them know that I am the guy in 2026, or is it more just game by game and that'll all work itself out?
Yeah, the latter part for sure. You got to operate day by day, game by game, and understand that. I think how I operate within the building every single day, communication wise, my play style, and what I put on tape is going to determine that, and that's the case for every position. And obviously, it's on more of a pedestal playing the quarterback position. But for me, I feel like I am that guy. I can be that guy. I continue to be that guy for this team, and we got to put it on tape, and I got to continue to do my job. So that's all I'm worried about, and at this point, like you said, this is why you play football. We're coming to work every single day, and obviously that end goal of the playoffs and a Super Bowl, is out of reach at this point. But we got a job to do, and we can kind of continue to get better and formulate who we are as this team and how we finish the season.